Arts organization leaders from across Illinois gathered in Quincy with local leaders to find ways their work can further benefit communities. And WGEM's Madison Norris is live at the History Museum on the square to tell us some of the challenges they face. Madison.
Mackenzie, Arts Quincy officials say today was the perfect opportunity to showcase exactly what Quincy has to offer. It was also a way to show partnering organizations as well as the community exactly where grant money and other investments are being spent and where more are needed.
It's up to us to figure out how to nurture those types of events and how to ensure that we're supporting them financially to make sure that they continue to happen for all of these communities.
Illinois Arts Council Agency Executive Director Joshua Davis Raperto says coming out of the pandemic gave the agency the perfect opportunity to hit reset on grants and look into how they can start making real changes in the state.
We wanted to come into the communities that we serve, get a sense of what's happening, try to figure out ways that we might be able to support that and build it based on what we're seeing in these local communities.
One grant awarded locally saw $1.5 million being awarded to the History Museum on the square for improvements that included an elevator to access all floors. However, this work is still delayed. Historical Society of Quincy and Adams County President Jack Freiberg says the main goal of the project is to allow all people to experience what the Historical Museum has to offer.
It's not exactly up to current accessibility standards, and we want this building to, a rich asset that it is, we want it to be accessible to everyone.
Freiberg says that 2 years after receiving the grant, the projected cost now exceeds the original grant and could now exceed $2.5 million.
Can't do the project with just the state money. We are going to be fundraising here in the not too distant future.
Behind me here is where the majority of the construction will take place. Up there on the second floor, an outlook deck is planned, and running alongside it here up the side of the building, a brand new portion will be built on to house a new elevator system accessing all floors. Live in Quincy, Madison Norris, WGEM News.
And thank you, Madison. And the visit also included a walking tour of the downtown Quincy sites, and that included the Dr. Richard Eales House and Washington Theater.